Hi, Shehrnaz. How are you? Thanks so much for joining us at Oran's leadership session.
Hi, Farah. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, I'm going to do a quick introduction and we'll get straight into it. Shehrnaz Hussain is the founder and creative director of Ensemble, a premier luxury brand that has branches across the country. Founded in 2007, Ensemble has branches across major cities Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, Dubai, and a big online presence. And we're very excited to have her speak more about herself, her journey, and the community that she has built. Thanks, Shehrnaz. So, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I started on which is a multi-brand store in Karachi in 2007, and we are in our 13th year now. It's a female-run, female-owned business catering for women mostly. We have now become more of a lifestyle brand. We have clothing, which is what we started off with. Now we have accessories like jewelry, shoes, we all bags. We also have a very big home section now, home accessories. We have a salon as well. So what started off as a small boutique has now predominantly become a lifestyle brand. And it's a business owned by women, run by women, for women, essentially. And yeah, it's what I do.
Sounds like quite a journey. Sounds like a long journey. 13 years is a long
I
time, and
think
it
it
started
is.
with
I feel that it's interesting. I suppose when you say it out loud, the other person is like, oh, okay, that's a lot. But I feel like when you're living that journey, it never feels like such a big deal because it's just what you do. It's every day. So you never realize when it's become such a big deal because it's just your work and that's it. You know?
That's true. I'm an entrepreneur myself, so I completely understand where you're coming from. But, you and your sister and your mom put this together. How did you guys decide to start this off?
So it's really funny. I was in university and my sister was not on board at that point. She joined us a few years later. And I was talking to my mom. We'd actually gone to India for a holiday. And I was talking to my mom, and you have all these, like the retail industry in India at that point was thriving compared to Pakistan. And you had a lot of these designer stores there, like local designer stores, and you had multi brand stores here, whereas there were very few here. And that whole concept of here, this is, I'm talking about mid early 2000, pre 2010. And here, there was still that whole tailor concept. If ever you wanted to pick up
Yeah.
shalwar kameez or Eastern clothes or whatever, anything, barring maybe the odd, like I think at that point there was, I don't even know if Khadi was really doing like ready to wear at that point. Everything was fabric and then give it to someone to design it or stitch it. There was no concept of off the rack, and that's what essentially I wanted to bring here. I wasn't in looking at just the high street concept. I was looking at slightly more high end, not crazy high end because then that becomes couture, but looking at sort of that mid range high end that people can just buy off the rack. It doesn't have to be like everything doesn't have to take 6 to 8 weeks or minimum, there should be that
Yeah.
instant gratification. You can walk into a store, you need something to wear for the evening, and you've got it. That's it.
You
So
sound
yeah,
like you had the
started off
women
with
hooked before. Yeah, that's
basically, and it
exactly, yeah.
started off as that, and it's really funny because it's like, how when you suddenly get an idea and you feel like, literally, it sounds very comic, but it's like that light bulb goes off in your head and you're like, this is it, this is what I want to do. I was studying marketing and advertising in university, so I had all plans of like coming back and joining an ad agency or something. In fact, I interned with one here while I was at university, and that was it. I love fashion. I'm a complete fashion geek. I'm one of those people who would happily watch fashion documentaries and read up on fashion and so on and so forth. I didn't think that this is something that I would do or whatever. So when I saw this concept, and I was like, but why don't we have this here? Like, it's a similar demographic.
Yeah.
This makes sense. And this is not really here. There were a few multi brand stores, but they were doing a mix of Western and a bit of this and a bit of that. So there was definitely a niche in the market that wasn't being represented. So I said, okay, I'm graduating. At that point, I think I was graduating in maybe like a year. This is what I want to do. And I spoke to my mom about it,
Amazing.
and she was a stay-at-home mom at that point. We decided to do it together, and that's that.
Sounds like a great support system for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. There's
Let's
just me
talk a
and my
little bit
sister.
about that. Yeah,
Yeah, there's
the
just me
support
and my
system and the
sister.
community.
We're a fairly matriarchal family. I'm the younger one. I have a sister who's 6 years older than me, and as a family, we're quite close knit. And I think the way we've been raised, that whole sisterhood, we went to an all girls school. So, I mean, we have a very strong support system of women around us, and that's what I know, and that's what I've always seen. So, I mean, for me, it's not alien territory. It's what I know, and I wouldn't say I take it for granted, but I really appreciate and value it for what it is. And it's fantastic. I think every woman should have that.
How would you actually even, what tips would you give to people to build that support system? Because clearly throughout your life within your family and also friends, you've managed to make that, which has really helped you build your career as well.
I mean, to be very honest, I think it's about building relationships essentially. I think in order to build a support system, you have to show up. You have to show up for them. You have to tell them when you expect it, and people figure it out. If people care about being there for you, they'll make that effort. They'll show up for you as well. You have to also put in that requisite time, and that's how you build relationships. It's like building any relationship. You have to show up for each other. You have to be there. And I feel in our society there is a gender bias, whether we like it or you don't. I think it exists globally actually. Women have to show up for other women. We have to support each other. It has to exist at every level, and that's the only way we can move forward, because another woman will only understand what you're going through. A man will never be able to understand that. They will never be able to understand the social pressures we have. They will never be understand the biases we have. They're not equipped to understand that. So I
It's
mean,
true.
we have to stand up for each other.
It's very true. We find that in every field that we go into and
Yeah,
as we speak to women.
absolutely. It exists whether we like it or we don't. It's there. So the fact
So no,
is that you can't expect a guy to show up for you or stand up for you. First, build your own tribe. Get the women around you to stand up for you, for each other. It's not just about having people standing up for you. You have to stand up for them as well.
So, how can I ask you a little bit more about how you and your mom and your sister have supported each other because you obviously probably have different roles as well at
Absolutely.
Ensemble. So,
So
how does
I
that support system work?
So I think it honestly it works at a multi-level. So for example, when I was starting off this business, this was my idea, my passion project, my baby. I didn't know any better. I was straight out of college. I literally started working on this a year before
Idealistic.
it. I was completely naive. I had absolutely no idea. So my support system came through age and experience and wisdom from my mother, who herself was a stay-at-home mom before this, had done the odd charity fundraiser and so on and so forth, but had didn't really have much experience of a professional life. So where I got the support from her at that point was that she had age and wisdom on her side. So I was completely naive, and the smallest thing, like I didn't have much idea, so just kind of helping me navigate that, etc., etc. We did it together. And she wasn't my boss, she was my partner. So I feel we
Yeah.
supported each other like that. When my sister joined the business, beyond a certain point, my mother said, okay, you know what? Like she kind of went on a different direction. Like we have an in-house line called Shehrnaz, which my mother is a creative director for. So she's involved in that more. She's not really involved in Ensemble. She's kind of retired from Ensemble. My sister and I kind of took it over. With my sister now, she's married with two small kids. So I feel a lot of support system within the family comes from, we're all working adults in the family. There's nobody who stay at home, but we kind of take that time out that, okay, and it's a joint family. So we will take that time that, okay, someone has to be at home with the kids. Because we work for ourselves, we can afford to have that luxury of flexible timings. So we will try
Yeah.
to work whether it, and honestly, nowadays you can work from a remote location. I mean, I think more than anything else, my work is done on my phone. So
Yeah.
we'll try to be there for each other. Like for example, if my sister has to go into work, I'll make sure that I'm at home with the kids, or my mother will make sure, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's one very intrinsic factor. Even again with work travel, same thing. One person can't go, the second person shows up. I remember once I had to go to India on like a 6 hour notice, because my niece was less than a year old and she fell sick, and my sister was supposed to go and she couldn't. So literally at like 2 a.m., my sister was like, I'm sorry, I can't take the flight. And the flight was at like 8 a.m. in the morning. So I went. So
Got
stuff
it. So
like
it's
that.
yeah.
I mean, I
It
think
is really important to have support around you, especially because life is unpredictable. There's so many things, and we all have to make the space for our own lives as well, and to really
Exactly.
flourish,
And
to be happy with our work,
time
both
as
of
well.
them.
For example, so we on some always had a salon for the last 10 years, and then last year I took it on a year and a half ago, and decided to expand the business and etc etc etc. And within Ensemble, from the fashion retail point of view to starting this salon, expanding this or whatever, again, my family was very supportive that okay, you might not have enough time for Ensemble, but we've got it. You focus on the salon. This is what you want to do. This is your solo project. We are there to help you, support you in every which way. Whatever their expertise is, like for example, it's very divided. So I'm more towards the creative and marketing side. My sister's more towards operations and finances. But if I need help from anything, from being like, okay, I need to open a bank account or this tax thing or whatever, I know she's there. She'll help
Yeah.
me out. So if I couldn't give too much time or attention to one part of the business, she'd cover up for me or vice versa. So
Sounds
that's where
like a really
the
good
comes in.
partnership between all three of you as well.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
sounds really important.
Mom has taken more of a backseat, but at the same time, that if I need any advice regarding staff or anything or whatever, I know she's always there. So she's not involved in the day to day running, but she's our sounding board. So it could be any, issue that you need a little bit of like, okay, let me get back to you on this, or I need to sleep over this or whatever. She would be my sounding board on that. So I think we regularly have meetings, not every day but every few days, between the three of us, just to touch base and be like, okay, what's going on, what is happening here. We would be each other's like consultants for any new project or anything big thing that we're taking on. So I mean, it works for us. Not
This
complaining.
sounds like, yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you've given us really good advice for other women entrepreneurs, to be honest, because it is about how do you build it with partners. So thanks
Yeah.
a lot. And I want to, I think we're done. So I want any last words from you for our community, which is a community of savers, and really around financial
I
empowerment. So any
feel
last words?
saving is a great idea, and I feel that there are always going to be two schools of thought when it comes to this whole committee concept. That some people think that, oh, it's something very frivolous, something, it's a great way of saving. I go with the latter. I think it is a great way of saving. I feel that it gives women a little bit of financial empowerment as well, because it's a concept that is culturally understood here. So if you can take
Yeah,
that little bit of money which you saved up every month and put it aside, and at the end of an X amount of months you get a larger chunk or whatever, and that system works for you, great. Why not? I mean, I think
absolutely.
it does give you that empowerment, whether you're saving up for something in particular, or you're saving up to start your own business, or to help some your family in whichever way, whatever it is. I feel that whole concept, again, I'm repeating myself, women have to support other women. It starts from there, it starts from home, it starts from your own neighborhood, from your own community. If you are supportive of each other, then only can you expect the rest of the world to support you. So start within
Thanks so
yourself.
much. I
And
love the last line. Thank you. Thanks
not
so much.
all
It's absolutely true. We are all, if we don't support each other and women
Yeah, you
don't
have
support
to
one
show
another,
up,
it's
and I
not.
think it works both ways. You have to show up for others as well. You can't expect them to show up for you if you don't show up for them.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Yeah.
Shahnaz. I'm going to